Hi, everybody. Susan already told us it's Wednesday, so you don't have to tell you that. But it is October 20, and I'm happy to see everybody. I'm hoping that you've already figured out what you're going to do for Halloween. That's going to be important, although it's on a weekend, so we'll never do it on the campus. Oh, maybe. Roman, are you guys doing anything for Halloween? Is Roman on? No, Roman. Okay. I don't know if the campus is doing any kind of anything for Halloween.
I think they are.
Think
This is
so?
Coco.
Hi, Coco.
Yeah. I believe they're doing something on that Friday because we have Malama Kapiolani on Saturday. So she had questioned about it.
Okay, well, maybe, yeah, we have one more. Oh, no, we don't. We won't have a Zoom before, so I'll be watching the news and events, the notes to make sure that I connect with the Halloween stuff. Okay, never mind. Okay, there's only one item on the agenda from me, and I know that Noya and Carol have things they want to share, and then there's one question from Tony. So let's talk about finalizing spring 22 schedule. Thanks to all the departments who are judiciously putting in all of their courses and classes. We go live next week, Monday, for class availability and STAR classes in carts. Students will be putting their classes in their carts starting Monday next week. You can still make changes until such time as students begin to register. Do not make changes after that, because then we have to do real terrible things about disenrolling everybody in a class and then re-enrolling them in something else. So please make sure that all of your fixes are done before students begin to register in November. As of a report that Navaa shared with us this morning, we are at 32% face-to-face or hybrid classes this semester, which is a slightly higher percentage than prior semesters since fall 20. We were at 30% hybrid or face-to-face in the two previous semesters. So 32% is a slight increase in offering our students that option. I thank you for making those choices available to students. There certainly will be students who prefer face-to-face and some students who require face-to-face. I'm thinking of veterans and international students who need to have face-to-face options in order to be in accordance with the requirements of their programs. Mickey's asking the question about distance requirements, and that's my next sentence. Thank you, Mickey. The president said that we are to make optimal use of our classroom space. So we are masked indoors, and so there is no longer a need. We're masked indoors and vaccinated, so there is not a need for social distancing in our classrooms. Does that answer your question, Mickey? And applies to other spaces like the library. We have to be vaccinated on the campus, and we are masked indoors. So I would agree. Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with you, Annie.
One more piece to that, no eating as well. No eating or drinking, which would require you to take the mask off.
Right. So no water even in the classrooms. Woohoo. Got to go outside to drink the water outside of everybody else. Are there other questions? Thank you for that, Brian, too. No, well, we're not supposed to be eating and drinking in classrooms anyway, and certainly not in the library, too. Oh. Other thoughts or questions? Navaa, is that you wanting to ask or say?
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
So I know we kind of have an exemption on gathering in an education institution. I'm kind of worried about the library. Does that go for the library? Is it still only 25 in the, it is, Annie, Oh, Keola, you're so quick.
It's 35, but actually that's way under the amount we can accommodate. So even with social distancing, we can probably take more than that on the first floor. So we're looking at increasing that for the spring. But I was gonna wait until maybe December to make sure. But yeah.
I have many conversations uh, how to limit these
We
days
never get
and
close to our maximum capacity of 35. We've never reached that number at one time. That doesn't include staff. That's just students
Right.
and students. Yeah.
okay. Any other thoughts or questions about spring 2022? Okay. Noel, you have things to share?
Yeah, I'll share really quickly. So as Louise is saying, spring registration is right around the corner. I wanted to give you guys a peek at what students will see in STAR.
Okay, hold on. Let me make sure. Yeah, Ken.
Okay. And I think if the screen isn't big enough, let me also paste it here. And this will kind of give a little bit more clarification to what I was saying earlier. Because actually when I was speaking on it earlier, I was actually wrong. So if you open that document, and I'll also share a screen. Okay, so basically here, this is what a student sees in STAR when they register for courses, right? So everybody should see this accounting classes. Basically, if the student is in compliance, COVID compliance, and also has their health requirements, you see here on the left side of accounting, you can click on it. Basically, the student will be able to register. Basically, you click, you scroll to the bottom, and then you would register. For students, if they do not have their COVID vaccination uploaded to Lumicite or do not have an approved exemption, what they would see, so the same student who's looking at accounting would now see this, all right? So they can see the in-person class, accounting, Tuesday, Thursday, but now instead of the bubble, they can't click it. It'll say requires COVID vaccine. And I believe if you hover over this, there's some kind of language about them abiding by the COVID-19 testing policy. Because they don't have that, they can't register for in-person or hybrid, but they could register for online courses. Okay, so it should be, I'm assuming it's pretty straightforward for students. When they can't click on something, that means they need to fulfill another requirement. So again, everything is uploaded into Banner. Lumicite also communicates with Banner, which then communicates with STAR. So everything should be linked up, hopefully perfectly. But that's an idea on the back end of what your students are seeing when they are trying to register for courses. The other thing that went up today is our class availability just for the campus. So that is up. We're going to modify the words that are located up there and say something about the course formats will be changing, and then linking students to our website that gives them the different types of course formats. In-person, hybrid, online, synchronous, asynchronous, what does all that mean? What does the building mean when it says www? All of that information will be hyperlinked there. And then also there would be a statement saying that more courses will be offered online or course formats may change to, so basically check STAR to make sure they're on task. And as Louise was saying, the shopping cart doesn't open till 10:25, so that's STAR. And basically students are able to log into STAR, pick some classes to put in their shopping carts so that when registration starts, they should be able to just register for it. And then spring registration is November, somebody save me. Is it 5th or 8th? I can't think of the numbers right
I
now.
couldn't remember. That's why I didn't say it.
November 8th.
Oh, thank you, Jerry. I was so close. Okay. I think to Mickey's question, the message in STAR distinguishes Yeah, so it doesn't distinguish between all of the TB and MMRs. I believe it's just going to distinguish, it's going to call that the health requirements. So basically, it's either going to say COVID or health, or sometimes both. So those are some of the changes we're trying to have STAR implement when we got feedback of that. Because basically there's two requirements, health and COVID vaccination. And then health is the 4 requirements.
So if they haven't, I'm sorry, if they haven't submitted their TB, MMR, et cetera, they can't register either.
Yeah, so it should say, I had another screen and I can't find it, but it should say need your COVID vaccination and also something about your health records. I don't know what the exact language they settled on.
Hi, I guess you should see.
Hi, Lisa.
So, hi. So the right now the draft of spring 2022 up on class availability. I see the message at the top about the different delivery modes changing, et cetera, et cetera. There isn't anything about students being required to wear masks inside the classroom if they take a face-to-face class. Is that going to change, or do we have to add a statement in each course comment for a face-to-face course? Because, you know, UH system is having students and faculty wear masks indoor, but that's kind of going beyond the CDC guidelines, so maybe students need to know.
Yeah, so the statement gonna change, and we can add something about that, because I think I actually forgot about that statement about the wearing masks and whatnot.
Okay, that's
So,
yeah,
but
I
yeah,
think-
the statement will change, the one that you see right now on the draft.
okay. So I don't need to add the "you better wear a mask if you can take this class" statement in each course comment.
I think that's something that Maria brought up, so that we don't have to put it in every single course comment.
Okay, thank you. Just checking.
Sorry, the other thing I will add though, even if we put it there, majority of our students don't use class availability to look at courses. They'll go straight into STAR. So and I don't have control over STAR. So we can put it there, but
which is why I was wondering if the statement went into a course comment for a face-to-face course, it would show up on STAR. But that's another comment in STAR, and I don't know. They probably don't read all that stuff anyway when they open STAR.
We could certainly put something on the main website.
Yeah.
Not that they look there either, but.
Yeah. Well, you know, if it's somewhere, then a faculty member can say, please put on your mask. You were told ahead of time to put one on. So, yeah.
Because the only thing that I would caution about putting too much comment, especially in STAR, when you expand that box of notes, what it does is fill up the whole screen. So sometimes students don't keep scrolling down. So I guess I'm thinking a course like English, you find one and then you expand that list, it's gonna blow up your whole screen. So sometimes they may be confused as to how far they're supposed to scroll. So that's the only thing I don't like about the notes is sometimes it takes up too much room unless you minimize it again.
Yeah, I know. I know they take up a lot of room. They take
We'll
a
look
lot
at some options.
Okay.
Okay, other questions for Noel? Nava. And then Lisa has one in the chat.
Noel, so I'm teaching in Pidgin English 100, and a student contacts me and asks me to give them an override into the class. When faculty provides an override, they only provide capacity prereq override, but there isn't, I haven't provided overrides for over 6 years, but there's not going to be is there any chance that an unvaxxed person could get into a class when faculty provide a capacity override? Sorry, I don't know that much about Banner. I'm just trying to figure out, so our faculty and staff aren't liable. How do we make sure that the least amount of people are giving overrides?
Yes. So prior to I guess all of this that is happening right now, we only had to worry about health requirements, which was pretty easy to track. Now, however, there's the health requirements as well as the COVID exemptions or the COVID vaccinations. So with the COVID exemptions, only a small list of us on campus have access to that and can really approve those. So a lot of these course overrides or any kind of things where we're trying to put into classes, that one we got to stop because we cannot be sure that we're putting the student in when they met all of the requirements. So part of the questions that I get, I think from attending this meeting or AAC was, how do we know if the student is abiding by this or whatnot? To be honest, you don't. And it's written into our conduct and it's written into the students' expectations that they follow that. And the only way I can track it is to make sure that whoever's in these courses, registered in these courses, pass that. I guess now it's kind of a rigorous list of all these requirements. So I think if faculty need either a capacity override or a prereq override, the best thing to do is just email me and Jerry. That way we can kind of look at everything's on the back end system before we can kind of put the student in. And that would be the cleanest way, because I think we have, between the two of us, have access to the reports to double check that. Because I think my fear is that if we put a student in and they didn't have these requirements, then it kind of not only jeopardizes the classroom, but also our faculty who was teaching in the class. Because basically everything I said up to now would be untrue that the students didn't follow. So we're gonna try to avoid that. Any kind of overrides should go through me to me and Jerry, and then we can kind of get the student in the class.
Thank you.
Cheryl, to your question, wouldn't the health COVID still prevent registration even if capacity override is given? Yes, although with some access in Banner, there's some ways to bypass that stuff. So that's how we're gonna go with going through me and Jerry, and then we're gonna modify some of the Banner security measures. Because the thing is, so the health requirement, sorry, this is just maybe too much history, but the health requirement, the college is pretty familiar. We have a really good process. The COVID one was developed so fast, and we've only been using it for a semester that we really don't know what mistakes is still out there, because it was just created too fast in the middle of a pandemic. So we try to use the process where it's going through a certain format to ensure that there's no loopholes in the system.
In trying to address the question about the international student and the test in China, I think, and I'm trying to find it and I couldn't right away, but there is something somewhere in the UH guidelines that says the tests, the vaccines that are approved are those in a list somewhere for the WHO. Thank you, Angela. Yes. Thank you. There's a list somewhere and I can't find it, but it's there. We got another question from Cheryl Noel.
It may be easier if I just ask it verbally. So I just want clarification, Noel, because there's a lot of times when special approvals or other kinds of overrides are required. Like for example, our internship class requires every student to have a special approval override, right, for registration. So you're wanting everything like that, every kind of override to go through either you or Jerry, or can we just verify first that the health and COVID holds will prevent that? Because I think that's going to cause a lot of busy work for, I just don't want to, overload or overburden you and Jerry for things that we can do ourselves. You're on mute. Noel, you're on mute.
I'm on mute. So with those overrides, Cheryl, are you guys just giving the override to the student that allows them to register themselves?
I put it in Banner. So like if a student needs internship, I'll put the the special override in Banner, or if it's a prereq override or a capacity override. So are you saying all of those?
Yeah, no, sorry. Okay, so I'm misusing the language. This is what happens when you have me talking, not Jerry. So if you're giving the students the overrides, prereq overrides, those special circumstances, and they register themselves, that's fine, because the system will still go back and check all the requirements. I'm talking about the last minute changes where we try to put the students directly into the course. Those ones. Sorry, in my head, that's an override, but I think I'm using the wrong word. So to clarify, as long as you're giving the students overrides and they are registering themselves into the course, perfectly fine, because the system will still check for health and COVID requirements. Does that kind of clear it up, Cheryl, what you were trying to ask for?
So you're saying only like if we're trying to register them, like a student in Banner through SPA regs?
Yes.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm glad that made it clear. Okay. Any other questions for Noel?
Can I just say something really quick? Sorry.
Sure.
It's Jerry. Sorry. So to tag on with Noel's thing, yeah, no, sure. I would not want all of you guys to come to through me or Noel to do all your overrides, because that's still on your territory. What I'm concerned about is if you have access to SPA regs, manually registering, and I'm talking about my people as well. If we're gonna do like any kind of late ads to an in-person or hybrid class, we gotta be mindful and not put anyone into a course if they did not have their health requirements. Because I am not putting the college in position to put someone into and jeopardize. You know what I mean? So that's where we gotta be really mindful of the setups and that everything's correct. Because if I see that the class is in person and something isn't jiving with STAR and the student gets in, that means I still got to go back in and check the roster but as you saw from Noel's example, if everything's built correctly, the student will not be able to select that course if it's in person or hybrid if they have both, they did not meet TB, MMR, Tdap, varicella, and the UH COVID. And yes, all COVID does not come to my office. It strictly goes to Lumicite. But we still collect, us and Honda will still collect the normal Department of Health. So hopefully that's where I'm just want to make it clear, like anyone touching Banner, please check. And the only reason why too is some of you don't have access either to see the medical information as well too. So that's where I'm fearful that people just may put someone in and not check. So that's where I was concerned, and STAR was concerned as well, that because all these mandates are coming down, I just don't want anyone to get a case come up or whatever, because it was someone's human fault. So that's all. That's what I'm saying. Just be careful and be mindful. Thank you.
Okay. Guy, you have a question? Because your little rectangle just lit up.
Sorry, I must be making noise.
Okay. All right then. Carol, you have something to share?
Yes, I want to announce a couple of webinars, and then I would like to give an update about the implementation plan. First of all, I just want to announce that there are 2 Kaya Ulu webinars during the month of November. On November the 4th, continuing with our trend to highlight other community partners who are celebrating their 75th anniversaries, we're going to have Mary Star of the Sea on November the 4th at 5:30. And then on the 18th of November, we have the Kaimuki Professional Business Association, who actually started the Kaimuki Christmas Parade way back in 1946. So they're on the 18th and they're at 5:30, and I'm putting the link in the chat for you. The other thing that I do want to announce is the fact that the continuing education units across the community college system have been working with one another, as well as the consultants that the University of Hawaii Community College system hired for the past 4 months to look at what we're doing and how we could be doing things more efficiently and plan for the future. There's a lot of details, so I'll just try to summarize it in a few words. The themes I would say that cut across everything are that we need to collaborate, we need to align things more, and we need to innovate. And they mean that we need to do this at the campus level. We need to do that between campuses. Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Questions for Carol or comments? Okay, then there's the last thing in the agenda, which is Tony Silva asking, can we talk about compliance? You want to elaborate on what it is you'd like to talk about compliance?
Sure. I put compliance in quotation marks, so I want to talk about the word itself. I'm just going to boldly go where no one has gone before.
Okay.
And suggest that we think about banning the word compliance across the campus. Just hear me out. I guess maybe I just reached sort of a tipping point or something like that. I recently just seeing in emails and other places, the word compliant or in compliance, and seeing compliance reports and these kind of things. And I know those are important, but I recall when Laurie Burke and I became assessment coaches. Prior to that, there were compliance lists. So your curriculum, your course was either in compliance for a curriculum update or out of compliance for a curriculum update. Or it was another list was it was in compliance for assessment every 5 years. It was out of compliance for assessment every 5 years, or having a CLR or a CAP, all that kind of stuff. And when we became assessment coaches, we created a LASER, which is the LASR, Learning Assessment Schedule and Report. We didn't create an LACR, a Learning Assessment Compliance Report, because we wanted to sort of change the culture a little bit around the word compliance, because in all aspects, I think, of life, it's not about compliance, it's about other things. And if you look up compliance in the dictionary, it says things like to obey, to conform, submit to something. I think faculty know the work that they have to do. They know what they have to do. They know that there are deadlines and there are things that we need to do. So, I don't present this as like a touchy-feely snowflake kind of thing, but I think it's there are cultural implications. And if we're always talking about compliance reports and make sure your course is in compliant, or this is in compliance and not in compliance, it does have an effect on the culture of the campus. So I don't present this I don't present this at the Faculty Senate or CAC as a policy, but just as a thought to share with the 82 other folks on the call here, spanning all departments in all areas of the campus, that maybe the word compliance could be, eliminated or thought through or worked around, so that when we see something, we don't feel like we're being forced to submit or obey the dictates or the mandates of others. And that's my thought about compliance.
That's true, Tony, because usually when we say compliance, most people think defiance. Well, I grew up like that. What? Comply? Nah, I don't think so.
I
But
think it just has, developed certain connotations
got it.
over the years. I mean, you can just say, it could just mean you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but it just has this authoritative, top-down, obey kind of thing. And we, even back when we came, when we did the what is it? The ICER, institutional report in 2012. I mean, this was a big deal, right? Being in compliance, and we know at that time that assessment specifically, it's not about compliance, right? It's about other things. Curriculum is not about compliance, it's about other things. So maybe we can just think of other terminology or other ways that we use that. That's all.
Thanks, Tony. I'm seeing some stuff in the chat also.
Yeah, I'd love to work with Tony on that, but I'm going to have some trouble with things like cybersecurity or ADA. But I'd love to come up with other words. Maybe you and I could work together, Tony, because I agree it's got negative connotations, but I'm stuck with it in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that there may be legal aspects that where it's necessary to use it, but yeah, the areas that I'm thinking are not legal.
Very good point, Anthony, Tony. We have a role at the UH Foundation, and it's called donor compliance. So to me, that's always sound like, what do they have to be compliance about? It should be more about the IRS or how the money is being used, but not donors, because they're people. Very good point. And I'll take that back to the UH Foundation as well. So may I make an announcement since I have popped on here?
Hold on, Lynn, let's just see if there's somebody else who wants to be compliant with this conversation, but I'll come right back to you. Does anybody else have any thoughts about compliance? Okay, so it's a challenge. Next time when you're going to say compliant, see if you can think of another word other than compliant. And while we're at it, let's change all students to learners. We're going to change our language and change the culture. Don't talk about students, talk about learners. Just saying. Go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, so I'd like to make an early announcement about our annual Giving Tuesday. We'll be launching it on November 30th. And this is going to be system-wide across the University of Hawaii system for every campus. So this is when they do invitations by email blast and social media, and however electronically or technology-wise we can reach people, our donors, and our faculty and staff, our alumni, to give on this one day. So it's a 24-hour period where we will be asking for donations. Last year, I was very proud of us. KCC came in second compared to the entire UH Manoa campus. And I'm asking you again to think about giving to a fund here at Kapi'olani Community College, fund of your choice. Lisa Yamamoto and I will be working to build up the campaign and what it's going to look like, and the page and the landing for it to make these donations. And then we will be working and broadcasting it out in social media too. But last year we were so happy. I'm hoping for participation. It doesn't mean you need to give away everything you have, but if you could give, that shows the loyalty that we have to our college on top of the sweat, tears, and blood that we give every day to our learners while we are in compliance with the rules. I'm just kidding. So it's November 30th. And I'm happy to announce I do have some, we've lined up some gifts to kick us off. Thank you very much, Denise P. I don't know if you're on here. Joanne W. and Lisa Y. They're all going to be donating. So at least I know I have 3 of those folks, and then myself giving to Giving Tuesday. if you have any questions, Louise Yamamoto has a question. I don't have a goal. I have a goal to beat last year's goal. The only thing we can compare ourselves to is something that we've done last year. I can't compare ourselves to Manoa or any other unit. We are unique in what we do. But there is an overall goal for our 75th anniversary. Chancellor first started with 750,000 and then she moved it up to 1 million. I'd like you all to know that we are already halfway there and we're only a few months into our fiscal year. So go KCC. There's a lot of love for us in the community and our donor Ohana. So please join me and make a donation on Giving Tuesday, November 30th. And I will be back at each meeting here to talk a little bit more and give you more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Questions for Lynn? Okay. Anybody of the 82 people have things they want to share while you have the audience that you have here? Mickey, how will instructors know how many students in their class are actually not vaccinated? They will know by the rosters. They will know who has uploaded the vaccination information in Lumi's site. That's the way we are going to know. And how will those of us who have in-person student appointments know? You will be able to check. You can ask if you're going to have a face-to-face meeting with a student, they're supposed to be vaccinated to be on campus. So you could ask to check Lumi's site. Thanks, Shannon. What, Noelle, not counselors? They have access to Lumi's site. They could ask the student, no?
Sorry, basically you'd have to rely on the student. They don't have access to that instructor support app that the instructors have.
No,
because they have a class
they can
roster.
just say, as everybody, show me Lumi's site. The questions. Instructor counselor discretion on social distance. Mickey, explain please.
I think I can.
Excuse me.
Oh, you got it, Nikki?
Is
Go
it
ahead.
working?
Yeah.
Thank you. So for example, in the Kikahaolaiahi Center, we might not know from Lumi site whether or not the student has the vaccine card or they have an approved exemption plus a negative test. When we see the student, are we required to not have any distancing, or can we have individual discretion to say, let's say in the center, we're going to keep it at 3 feet or 6 feet?
I just want to be clear. Can you repeat that first part that says you're not going to know on Lumi's site?
My understanding is that on Lumi site, it'll show green whether or not the student has either submitted a vaccine card or they have an approved exemption plus a negative test. So I mean, is it up to us to say, oh, if you don't have a vaccine card, but you have an exemption, we're going to say 3 feet, 6 feet distance, full vaccine, no social distancing. Is that by program or instructor? Or
so the Lumi site should show.
No, so actually, if you look at Lisa's screen, there's 3 boxes. The first one, you can't really see, but that first one says vaccination. Basically, if you have a vaccination uploaded, you'll have a green there. The next one says test result. So for example, those who are not exempt, that vaccination will not be green. The test result will be green. And that's really how you would assume the student or whoever here is not vaccinated, but has a negative test result. So I think to Mickey's question is, if the student does come in and they have that negative test result, you could safely assume that they're not vaccinated. So with that assumption, are we then able to then say we'll be meeting with 6 foot social distancing or 3 feet and not eliminate the whole social distancing in itself? And then I think what we're looking at is really confined spaces. So the counselor workspaces, meeting one-on-one with students in their offices. Some offices are not designed with 6 foot social distancing, maybe 3 at minimum. Some may not be like that. So I think that's where Mickey was headed with that question.
So I think you're going to end up in a dilemma. It's perfectly fine, I think, if you wanted to step outside in a larger space and have a talk outside or talk in a larger space, but I know that counselors also require privacy for certain kinds of conversations with the students. And so maybe that's the kind of conversation you want to have over the phone with somebody if you're not comfortable being in your office with the door closed. So I think, you know, if you're not comfortable in a small space with another human being that in that kind of a setting, then I think you'll need to find accommodations for those, you know, depending on the nature of the conversation you're going to have. Outdoors, bigger space, or on the phone, if it's a private conversation. Would that help, Mickey? I'm sorry, no, Al, go ahead.
And then to add on to that, Mickey, this is some of the things that the work group, that committee is going to be working on, that I solicited information from, because I think from yesterday and today, the information changed a lot. So we'll be discussing what you just mentioned, mainly to kind of keep consistency purposes so that everybody's not kind of doing their own thing. And there's some kind of consistency when students seek out services from one program to the other.
Thanks, Noel, and everybody working on these things.
Noel, when Mickey was asking the question, I was just thinking, because they're first year, how many students do they see who aren't even, has not even applied to KCC?
In person or?
I don't know. I'm just thinking that I can see a lot of students going there that, you know, they're prospective students, but they wouldn't have access to LumiSite at all.
Yeah, so that's part of the, I think the concern moving forward in January with the no social distancing and whatnot, because I mean, they don't have it, but I mean, with all the signs on campus, everybody has to check into LumiSite. But again, if you're a potential student or coming in, you wouldn't even know about our requirements unless you've been paying attention to the website. So
Correct.
it's, I don't have an answer. We'll probably have to think about something as to how to address these, but they all kind of go together.
Yeah, I keep saying it's like dancing on a moving rug. Rich Halverson says, State's Safe Travels app.
I guess you could use it, but
yeah.
I think just for the university purpose, I think they developed LumiSite for everybody to just understand it fairly quickly, and not have to rely on, I guess, looking at stuff. I've never really seen the State's Safe Travels app. I mean, if we're talking about now, can we see the student if they don't have these things in LumiSite? I would advise not to as much as possible, or have some kind of proof that they have those forms. But again, I think this goes back to the other issue of it's not really required for the faculty or staff to check student status, right? Again, that was an optional thing back then, and I've never seen any language that made it required yet.
I think the state travels is still fairly tied to the web base. They don't have an app. They have an app that you can use to scan QR codes if you're a business. But as far as providing the evidence at this point, last I knew, they did not have an app yet for the Safe Travels for the travelers. You have to go to the website.
Yeah. So it's not as portable as LumiSite. Rich, did you want to finish that sentence?
No, yeah, I need to find it. I'll find the link and put it in the chat, and then you can. It's an app you can download for either your iPhone or your Android, and it's able to read the QR code that's produced when you enter it up, and then you're able to see. I mean, you can even tap if if you want, you can allow the person to tap on it and they can see like your birth date and everything. So, but I'll put it in there. Common Health. Dale just said, is that one? Common Health? Will that read it?
The Safe Travels app is just right now, as far as I know, is just the reader of the QR code. And the QR code, as far as I know, only shows up on a website. They haven't figured out how to put the QR code on your phone so that somebody else could read it.
Yeah, well, you can just take a picture of the QR code and you can have that in your photos or have it in your notes or something. That's what I do.
Point.
Yeah.
For our non-credit classes, we've been requiring that they show the vaccine card and a photo ID. And so we're checking them like restaurants do. Can we please see that in advance? And if they don't have it, then please have a negative test. Luckily, we haven't encountered that. It's always been vaccine card and ID.
I'm going to take a picture of my QR code tonight. Thanks, Rich. Okay, final thoughts, anyone? I don't have the usual suspects today. Oh, I miss those guys. Okay. Nava'a, is there a question, Angela, for Nava'a?
No, he just normally takes over for Dave.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't think so. All right, then, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, please unmute yourself and say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Happy Halloween.
Bye. Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.